So I'd like to get things rolling here with a few questions from us, and if we've got time, like they said, maybe we can go to the audience. But I think I'd like to lead things off with David. Could you just talk a little bit more about how are you actually measuring the ecological benefit or impact of your solutions? You had a slide that said you could do that, but just a little bit more context would be helpful.
Sure, absolutely. So what we do is, as mentioned, we use ROVs and to gather all the images that we to gather images and see the different species. And then we use AI-based software to identify the different species. That's the basic of what we do. But the way we do it has to be always consistent, because we want to be able to compare every measurement that we do and actually compare the growth that we are achieving compared to the base case. In a port would be the wall of the port before our implementation, and from then on. So it's a methodology validated by the CSIC that we are actually certifying with certifying bodies to make sure that there's consistency.
Can I just jump in here, David? Actually, it was a very, very nice speech, I have to say. You were mentioning that you're having 40 clients, customers, who are using your application, right? So what kind of clients are those?
Mainly ports and marinas. This is our core market. This is where we started. But then we also have customers in the oil and gas sector. We're working with Red Eléctrica in the subsea cable. We're working with we're doing pilots with offshore wind as well. So that's the different verticals. Actually, every type of marine infrastructure that has generated some kind of environmental impact has the potential to offset that impact, and that's what we do, measuring it and being able to explain to its stakeholders.
May I add another question then?
Absolutely,
so
please.
What is the trigger for the customers to really say, look, I want to spend money right now on eco-monitoring?
I would say there is quite a lot of reputational pressure. I mean, most of the customers feel the need to do that. That's one trigger. Then it depends on the type of customer. I mean, if you think about a marina or a terminal owner, they actually might get extra points to gain their concession if they implement this kind of solution. If you think about oil and gas, for example, implementing our solution in certain areas of the world might allow them to actually reduce the need for decommissioning. So, and this actually saves a potential high environmental impact, but also significantly reduce costs. So I would say different cases, but I would like to if you allow me, to actually point the case of commercial ports, because I think it's the most relevant. I was talking about potential revenues or getting revenues. What we see is that the entire port community, not only ports, but shipping companies, cruise companies, the entire port community, it's feeling this need to actually start doing implementing offsetting measures. And doing it in the open sea, it's extremely complicated. It takes a lot of time, administrative permits, so it's complicated. Whereas ports actually have, most of them, a lot of available space in the docks, and they can actually provide these docks so that the companies in the ecosystem, in the port community, can implement those solutions in a measurable way. And therefore, ports can actually even generate revenues, as I was saying, by allowing, enabling or providing this space to the community.
Can I add one more question then? How is the permissioning then in ports, right?
Ports, actually, that's a very good question, because one of the reasons why we actually focus on infrastructures is because permitting it's way simpler than in the open sea. Once you have a concession, you can actually, you need to inform and you need to meet certain standards that we do, but you can certainly implement those solutions really, really fast. So permitting it's part of the value proposition here.
Thanks so much, David. It sounds like a really unique solution with both direct and indirect revenue opportunities, it sounds like, for clients. Let's transition over to Vanessa. Would you be able to just give us a little bit more context from your presentation in terms of how BioBright is different from other environmental solutions, and let us in the audience know if you have any pilots in the pipeline?
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel more relaxed now that I don't need to pitch and stay in for
a deep breath, you're okay.
I can relax a little bit. So, yes, so the way BioBright is different compared to the other companies is The first one is the monitoring system. So there are a lot of companies that are monitoring the water, that are monitoring CO2 emission. But the problem, when I was speaking with the Port of Livorno, is that some of these data are missing. Some of these companies don't have a dashboard where you can see on real time what's going on. So we put everything together in order to make their life is simple. So you have everything in one dashboard. You can see what's going on in the water. You can see what's going on regarding CO2 emission. And at the same time, thanks to my brother, which is the co-founder and scientist, we came out with a solution on how to measure how well the algae are performing. So this is another plus. And of course, it's the structure on how we're putting the algae as well. So because we're doing inside the port, we need to make sure that the algae are not going to float around. And so therefore, we created this structure that is safe, that is easy for us to harvest the algae. And so this is the answer for the first part of the question. And the last one regarding pilots, so we're doing these pilots with Roebuck and Red Funnel in the UK, so in Southampton. We started in September, and we're going to put the monitoring system in November. At the beginning of November, so we're almost there, where we are going to help them to reduce the emission between 5 to 15%. But after February, we're looking for other test bed. So we spoke with the Crown Estate, we spoke with the Royal Navy, we spoke with the Port of Livorno, and we really wanted to do more pilot project also here in Spain and in Portugal as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now for the hot seat question. It's time to get nervous, right? We got the business, the revenue questions.
Maybe I have another question then. If I understand correctly, you have a data monitoring system and an algae growing business.
Yeah.
Why is it not two businesses? It's one business which does two different separate things, isn't it?
This is a very good question. So, of course, we cannot do it both at the same time. So we started with the monitoring system first, because when we understand what's going on in the water, when we understand how much CO2 emission a port is actually producing, we can also calculate, okay, this is how many algae we need to put into the port in order to reduce 5, 10, 50% of their emission. But we're doing step by step. So only in 2028, we're going to implement the algae cultivation as well.
So it's a two-step approach.
Yes.
You're starting with data first, and then you say you have a solution already in the backyard to deploy algae growing. I understand.
Yeah.
And that can really get to 10-15% of emission reduction in ports. I mean, ports is a pretty dirty business. So that is quite astonishing. So how large is the area?
We're very clean. Oh, that was loud, sorry.
So, well, it depends to the port. So in this case, it's just with Red Funnel that we're able to reduce between 5 to 15%. But we're not alone. So we're collaborating with the Roebuck, where they're placing the cameras as well to understand where we can actually reduce their emission. And then with our data, combine everything together, we're able to reduce. Because I believe when also this morning we mentioned that we cannot do everything by ourselves. So also with BioBright, we were collaborating with Roebuck as well to reduce at least 5% of their emission.
Oh, nice. Okay. May I add one more question, Vanessa? I was really impressed that you've been able to speak with 500 ports. I mean, here in Spin there are 9, which are already collaborating. So how can you speak with 500? I mean, that is quite astonishing. For how long did it take?
3 years. So it's not something that happened overnight. But the reason why I spoke with so many ports is because BioBright was doing something completely different at the beginning. So we were using bioluminescent algae, and then we were using algae as an interior design decoration. And we realized that the problem is we didn't speak with our customers. We didn't understood like what they are looking for, what is their problem. We were just so passionate about the solution that we forgot about them. So this is why I started to speak with so many ports around the world, because I really want to understand their problem. We really want to build something that is useful, not just because we like it. So it takes 3 years, almost 4, to speak with all of them, from Canada to US to Singapore, Asia, like China and so on, so Europe. So it's not something that I did in 1 week.
Okay, I understand that.
Well, terrific. So last but not least, thanks very much to Wave, and as well as your partner, Laura. Thanks very much. Let's hear a little bit from Seagrown. How do you know your Calpedo will deliver, and what in addition to your presentation can you say to kind of reassure clients that might be looking to you for a solution or a potential partner?
Well, because we've tried it, quite simply. We've tried it extensively. We've had this equipment, the Calpedo equipment, deployed in an offshore site in the North Sea for the last 3 years, continuously, winter, summer, spring, all year round. It stays where you leave it, and it delivers the results. And we know it delivers the results because Professor Robinson here has a team of scientists within the business. We have 5 scientists within the business. We're basically a science and marine business. That's what we do. These guys, we take them to sea. They do the clever bit. They've monitored this to within an inch of its life, and they know what it's delivering because we've measured it using a suite of different measures. That's all gone into an evidence base. That's gone to the UK government, and that has now been approved as the basis for the system. So now we're confident to take it to the market and say, yes, this works, it does what we say it does.
Maybe you could expand on that a little bit more. So you said take it to market. So you focus on the UK, kind of for the audience and for us, what's next?
Yeah, we are focusing on the UK, but only because we are from the UK. We live in the UK and we work in the North Sea. But that's not where we're going to stop. No, we're about impact. We started this business to make the maximum impact. We've designed the equipment to do that. That's why it's scalable, and it will live anywhere, as I've said. So yes, of course, we're interested in taking it overseas, but that is also why we're sitting here, because we need to fund expansion. Scaling a business, as it turns out, is quite difficult. Who knew? I certainly didn't. Yeah, it's quite difficult. And so now we're going through that scaling process, bigger vessels, more people, greater impact.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was a fireworks of a pitch, I have to say, right? It's already difficult in 4 minutes to listen to one founder, but having 2 shooting at the same time, that was quite a challenge to read.
Good, it worked.
so you must be practicing a lot on this. Awesome. No, that was great. You said you're having generated revenue of around 1 million sterling. Is that what you do?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
The last 3 years, it's been just above 1 million, and we're projecting 10 million within 5 for the next 5 years, because we're taking more and more clients and larger contracts on all the time, and now our problem is scaling to meet that demand.
So what is the business model then? Is it an installation by a service model, or are you selling products, or what is it?
We're a turnkey solution for that. We solve the problem for the developer. The developer is given a problem either by the regulators or by the bank, quite frankly. One of those two will actually tell the developer, yes, we'll lend you the money to put your carbon capture scheme in the sea, but there are stipulations with that loan that you must fulfill. And a lot of those are around increasing biodiversity to mitigate the damage that the installation process will cause. So we can fix that, and we can fix it in a relevant location to that development. It's not 100 miles away, it's right next door, or it's as close as it needs to be to have that relevant impact. We can install it, we can maintain it, we can inspect it, and we provide them with their evidence at the end via a very similar process to what Vanessa was talking about with the dashboard.
So are the developers buying from you, or are they renting a service literally from you?
They pay us as a service.
Okay.
Yeah, we operate and maintain the kit throughout the process. So they don't want to own 500 Calpedo units. They want the solution. So we own them, we operate them, we maintain them, and we deliver that solution.
Okay, makes sense. Okay,
well, terrific. I think we're almost at time, or we can keep going. So maybe with that, I'd just be curious, just maybe one more follow-up question for Wave. I'm glad we've got a couple more minutes. So when you start thinking about providing this as a service, can you just give a little bit more color in terms of what you anticipate seeing on the Calpedo systems in terms of biodiversity? Because when you start expanding across the globe, clearly you're going to have different species. And can you talk a little bit about how the system would support those?
Absolutely. I mean, we've got 3 years of evidence from the North Sea, right? And this is obviously area specific. We couldn't, for instance, grow the same seaweed and shellfish off Coronado that we could off Scarborough in the North Sea. We've got to use local species, and we'll monitor it in the same way. But just the highlights of what we have discovered in the North Sea, where we've got the equipment in the water, we've got, correct me if I'm wrong, 500% of seabird uplift. 5 times more seabirds around where the gear is versus where it isn't, and we've got control sites with no equipment in that we measure. We've got 55 species of invertebrates. We hadn't seen with eyes a single harbour porpoise on the site. We've installed hydrophones, and it is full of harbour porpoise, as it turns out. So we're measuring this, we're documenting it, and we are building a really good data set, and that's what we would intend to do wherever else we went. But you can't just say it's a carbon copy, because the species will be different.
Terrific, thanks. I think we're all supporters of biodiversity, but I just have to ask, most ports are also located, for example, coming from a port, not that this is necessarily only a port solution, but are in very urban environments. So I'm just curious more from a conflict standpoint, have you had any challenges with attraction, for example, of seabirds or other things with use of ocean and airspace, which are also issues that ports have to pay attention to?
Yes, I mean, one man's conflict is another man's solution. If you've got a wind farm that's operating 1,000 wind turbines that has the obvious effect on seabirds, you don't want to put this solution in that wind farm. You want to put it near to seduce those seabirds away. If you're installing infrastructure that has a massive impact on harbour porpoise, don't put this kit right where you're installing it. Put it somewhere over here so that the harbour porpoise have foraging, breeding and prey habitat away from where the business is going on. So the client gets to look after their business while we look after nature.
Terrific. Thanks very much. Did hand over to our moderator, or were there a question or two from the audience?
We probably, would love to really check if we have any questions from the audience and for any of the startups are on stage. So just check in. If we do, we have time, which is great. Just one at the back. Yes.
My next question is sea grow. Do you harvest the seaweed as well? Do you have uses for the seaweed, or is it like a one-shot cultivation?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes and no. If you imagine, we've got a modular system. Each one of those modules is a tree, and the whole bunch of them is a forest. If you're looking to uplift biodiversity in an area, you don't cut down all of those trees. You cut down some, 10, 20%, whatever, at a time. Leave the rest in to maintain the biodiversity uplift levels. If we do harvest the seaweed, and we have to do this if we're doing carbon reduction or for water quality improvement, because the bad stuff is now in the seaweed and the shellfish, so you've got to take that out. So we have pathways for carbon reduction, and we have pathways for using high nutrient level seaweed primarily in agricultural applications, and we're also working with large landowners in the United Kingdom, principally the King actually. It turns out he owns quite a lot of land. So he is keen on regenerative agriculture through regenerative aquaculture, and we've got some good partnerships there. So that is what we would use the seaweed for, but we don't harvest it all. We leave some in to keep the beasties somewhere to live.
Great, thanks very much, David.
How many assets do you have in operation right now? How many assets?
Assets?
Yeah.
Do you mean units deployed? It varies. I mean, in our site off the Yorkshire coast, we've got 100, capacity for 100 there, and it fluctuates really because we've used that as an R&D test bed. Elsewhere, it's entirely scalable depending on the client's needs. For instance, we've had a client approach us very recently, one in an area 2,500 hectares. We're on 25, so it's 100 times bigger. That would be 1,000 units. We haven't got that in yet, I hasten to add, but we're working very hard on that. But we can go to any scale. You can put one in if you want. It's not a problem.
Okay, cool. So that's probably the reason why you can 10x grow in 5 years, as you say, right?
Correct.
It's very scalable. Okay, nice. Thanks.
Terrific. Any other audience questions? Right over here.
Yes, right.
Yeah, one question for Ocean Ecostructures. You had that perfect picture about this, no eco-structure to the oil rig, complete algae, everything, fish, everything. What's the timeline? How long does it take to transform an oil rig to an ocean ecostructure with your solution?
Well, oil rigs are kind of different because, I mean, if you go on oil rig and look what's there, even if they have plenty of anti-biofouling painting and everything, you'll see that there is already quite a strong ecosystem developed. What we do when we put our micro reefs, it's actually enabling a more complex ecosystem, and that gives resilience. And again, we can monitor and determine how this is influencing to local fishing and so on. On average, I mean, we already see results, but I would say that's across every infrastructure. In 6 months, we already see significant results, and in 1 year, I mean, the growth, it's pretty significant. And from then on, what we see is that biodiversity keeps on growing, but there is seasonality. So it grows, and then during autumn, winter, it goes down, and then up, and down, and then up. And we measure everything.
Nice. David, maybe just one follow-up question for you. Could you just talk a little bit about the manufacturing? So if you start looking at, from a global standpoint, are you looking to continue to manufacture them in a central location, or are you going to be looking at local markets and local contractors to provide that support?
Yeah, it's a good question. So actually, the micro reefs, what we call life boosting units, LBUs, are not complex structures. I mean, they are made of a core of mild steel, and then we coat them with calcium carbonate in an electrolytic process that we do inside water. And this is something that we have done in a way that can be replicated everywhere in the world. So whenever we have a big project, whenever we have upcoming demand in a market, we can certainly implement a production unit there, and that's our aim. We also want to minimize the CO2 footprint, so that's how we're doing it. Yeah.
I think that's terrific, because we're here from a port as well as an entrepreneurship standpoint. So we want to bring best solutions in, but we also want to do it from a way that supports the regional economies. Any other audience questions?
Any other? No, we're good. I want to ask in one short sentence to each of the startups, how is your startup going to create impact when it comes to the blue economy? How would you put it in a sentence?
Well, I'll start, and I have the mic. So I mean, the way we generate value, it's two ways. I mean, from an environmental standpoint, we generate biodiversity, or actually not generate, enable the development of biodiversity and biomass, and we measure it because we think that's fundamental to what we do. But then we mainly focus, and going back to the question, what is the motive of your clients the motivation of your clients to build? I mean, we really focus on turning those environmental benefits in business benefits, because we have set as our goal to implement our solution in 20,000 spots in the world, and the only way to do it is by generating benefits to our customers and growing with their demand. So that's what we tend to do.
Thank you. Vanessa?
So, well, the impact that we wanted to generate is also with the port, but every time, I mean, it's not just it's with people as well, because we're polluting waters, we're polluting here, and it's affecting us. It's not just affecting ports. So the impact that we wanted to create is to monitoring more about the water, understand where the emissions are coming from, how we can reduce that, especially with oil spill. When I was in Singapore, I was terrified that every month there is an oil spill, and you cannot swim there. So I really wanted to stop that, and also by using the algae as well, we can create biofuel, for example, or biofertilizer. And so there are different ways where we wanted to make an impact, but definitely we want to make an impact on human life as well.
Thank you. Wave?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Very simple answer. It's repeatable and reliable, full spectrum ecosystem services at scale, anytime, any place, anywhere. Simple.
Perfect. Amazing.